Yeah. You can stop sharing and I will share my screen.
Got it.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so Christina live stream is
Working on it.
okay.
Send us the link to the live stream.
Yeah, sure.
That would be cool.
Sure. Give me a sec.
So it's live stream now, Christina?
Yes, live stream. And then I also send the Facebook link on our chat box here.
Okay, perfect. Then I think we can start. All right. Welcome to everyone to our talk series 2023. So I'm seeing new faces and of course, some of our old friends here today. So I'm very excited today to host this one because this is our very first one talk series in March 2023. And for those of you who are new here, we actually have held a series of these talks in 2022 all year round. So we have invited a lot of speakers in the environmental field and people who are doing well for the society to our talks in 2022. So this is a very fresh start in 2023. So let's get this going. So today, before starting, this is our agenda for today. I'm going to briefly introduce you guys to Power to Change and the motivation for talk series. And then today is very special for 2023 because we have not one, but 3 guest speakers today. And there will be a session of interaction between me and the speakers. And we will open the floor for you guys to ask questions. All right, so before we start, I'm going to talk briefly about power of choice. We started this talk series because we believe that every person in Earth have the freedom of choice to find their purpose and to find their goals, but also work hard to achieving it and eventually can have their power to change and do well for the climate. So this is our 1 minus and 1 plus model. And the 1 minus 1 is alleviate now, which is reducing the resources that we can in different industries. And then for the plus, we can plant the seed and actually reallocate those resources we save to help different poverty populations. And with this, we will try to reach our final goal of reaching 0 carbon emission and end the poverty. So one of the case of this 1 minus and 1 plus is our energy prosperity project, or in Chinese, it will be 点亮无穷希望. So this is a project that we've been creating in Taiwan, which is using the power of business. And in this case, it's the banks. And we try to encourage customers to have their paper statements be changed into digital statements so that banks can save their resources of money and also paper. So this is doing well for the earth and also for the business itself. And with the money that is saved with the business, with the banks, they can actually help energy poverty households in Taiwan. So we've tried to help over 4,000 households in Taiwan to change their light bulbs to LED. So this is gonna save their electricity bills and they will have a brighter home. So if you're interested in our projects, we have our movement team all over Taiwan, and this is the events that we've held over the past 2 years. So we have held school speeches, either online or physicals, because most of our movement drivers are actually university students, just like me. And we have also held booth promotion all over Taiwan in different markets and different events in Taiwan. And this is really exciting event last year, which is the Taiwan National Cleanup. And together with all the cleanups around Taiwan, we have held in 3 different places in East, South, and North. And also, I've been saying about the talk series the past year because we have held a lot of talk series and with a lot of speakers from different fields. So thank you again for your support. And we're really excited to open up our talk series for 2023. So our first guest speaker today, we have our fellow friend from the B Corp community. So it's the founder of Uchacha. So if you're based in Taipei or ever coming, you really need to try it because all of my vegan friends or even non-vegan friends have always going on about how good the food is. So if you're not in Taipei, they're actually launched their sister restaurant in Hsinchu last year, which is Shinjuku. So I'm really excited to have the founder and CEO here with us today. So let's welcome Mai. So Mai, you can try to share your screen.
Yeah, let me unmute myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Mai. I'm going to share and give you a little bit of background about what I do and my company. Let me share my screen.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So I'm Mai. You know, I don't so much like labels all that much, but if I had to put something on myself, I'm a social entrepreneur and activist at the heart of it. I do run a food and beverage business. So I am a vegan chef and I have taken certifications and courses, but I'm mostly self-trained. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Uchacha. And what is Uchacha? So Uchacha is a vegan plant-based restaurant that focuses on simple, real, whole food. And we were founded in 2013 after kind of my own personal journey. And we had 2 spaces. So this slide's a little old. Unfortunately, because of 2022, the pandemic and the lockdowns, we had to close that top location at Kojidalo. But good news, we actually moved that location to a new space in Banqiao that actually opened this month. So we currently have 2 locations in Taipei, one near Guting MRT and one near Fuzhou in Banqiao. And then, of course, we have our sister location in Hsinchu. So for me, my journey actually started with this book called Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. And at the time, this was 2010. And, you know, I just kind of followed the standard normal American diet. And reading this book really opened my eyes and helped me understand what our food systems had actually become. Like everyone kind of has an inkling about how destructive or terrible or cruel our food system is, but I don't think we know or understand how deep it affects everything, from the people to the environment. And this book really was the first glimpse for me into that. And he's an amazing writer. He normally writes fiction. So the way he weaves together these stories are so impactful. And it took him 3 years to write this book because he himself went through a journey and did investigative journalism. to uncover the stories for this book. So he comes at it from all different angles, from, you know, ethical beef farmers to vegetarian beef farmers to people who work in the slaughterhouses. So the stories are really, really based in the human experience, and then also how the animals are affected. So I highly recommend this book if you're kind of interested or intrigued about the food systems. This book in particular focuses on the US food system. So it's not completely applicable to the Taiwan context. However, the US is a huge exporter of a lot of different animal products. So that's why I say it's important that we know about the US food system. And he gives a lot of context for the laws and the regulations around that system. So after that, we opened up Uchacha as I transitioned into a vegetarian diet very quickly after reading that book. And then I found that I wasn't educated enough about my nutritional choices, which led to kind of some health issues. And that's when I transitioned to a more plant-based whole food diet and started cooking a lot for myself. And that was in 2011. And we had returned back to Taiwan. And that was the first time I realized that it was really difficult to actually find the type of food I was wanting to eat in Taipei at like a price point I could afford and accessible. It was really hard to find any places doing that at the time. And that's when I spoke with my husband and we thought maybe we should try something on our own so that we could introduce this to people. And so in 2013, we actually launched the first cafe space in Guting. And our mission is really to just educate and empower people to make an impact every day in their life through the small act of eating. Food has so much power, and you know, it starts conversations, it connects cultures. Everyone has to eat every day. So, you know, it's something that we all have to do, and it's integral to every person. Like, we need it. So when I was learning about the food system, I also learned how destructive it could be. But also when I started the company, I didn't want to just make the statement that we were cruelty free because we weren't using any animal products. It also had to do with, you know, the people involved, like who is growing your food? How are they treating the workers? Even within our own company, food and beverage is known to be highly exploitative and, you know, using labor that is not always compensated fairly. There's usually not a lot of living wages. So for us, when we started, my husband and I had a really long discussion about how we wanted to change the standard for this industry. And we were always going to pay well above market rate and, you know, not employ the normal tactic of having 2 split shifts where workers end up being at restaurants, you know, 14 to 16 hours a day. We really believe in some kind of balance. Now, I don't necessarily fully believe in like this idea of work-life balance, but I do think that people's mental health and happiness is very important. So we're always looking after our employees. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's good business, because if you take care of your employees, they will also help you and stay with you for a long time. So it's a win-win. And that led us to our B Corp certification. So in 2022, in 2021, you know, B Corp had always been on my radar as something I wanted to pursue. But in 2021 was the kind of the first time that we were ready to explore it. And it took about 9 months for us to get our B Corp certification, because there's a lot of moving parts with restaurants and you have to do a lot of due diligence. And I liked B Corp certification because it looks at all aspects of your company and governance so that you can really take a holistic view of your company and make the claims that you're trying to use business for good. And so in 2022, we actually got B Corp certified. So part of the reason I went plant-based initially was for health reasons, and then it was for animal welfare, and then it was for health reasons. But I think the reasons you go plant-based are very entwined with the impact all around, not just in the factory farming, but also the environmental impact. And the environmental impact is actually pretty devastating for farming and factory farming. So, sorry, I think I lost some of my slides in here. Okay, sorry, they're a little bit out of order. I did this kind of early this morning. We're opening a new restaurant, so I'm sorry, I apologize. This is just kind of an overview of like the agricultural systems that are at play. So this, if you look at the picture on the left, this is just one small piece of land that's been cleared for farming. And if you look at the right, this is actually kind of the end product. It's basically cattle until, you know, the eye can see. And 45% of the Amazon rainforest is actually cleared just for cattle farming. So if you can imagine, I mean, it's a catastrophic failure of the system to allow us to clear that much rainforest. And the Amazon rainforest is one of the largest carbon sinks for us in the world. This is also overfishing. This is just one ship on the ocean fishing. And it, you know, scientists are not optimistic about where we're headed. And if we continue these practices, we're actually going to cause the ocean to collapse, like the whole environment. And it's not a good thing. So this is also part of the overfishing problem. 85% of the catch that actually is caught by these trawlers are not usable. They're actually bycatch, and they actually destroy whole species when they go across, they drag these nets across the ground. So 2050, this is kind of the number or what scientists have anticipated that the kind of the ocean ecosystem will collapse if we continue at the rate we're depleting the ocean. So what can we do? We've learned that actually the biggest impact you can make as one person is to just eat more plants. I don't strictly advocate going fully vegan or going fully plant-based because I understand it's a really extreme decision and it is really difficult. So I try to help people transition, like just adopting, you know, one meal a week, one meal a day actually makes a huge difference. And as you slowly incorporate these changes, you'll see there's a snowball effect. It'll become easy for you and your mindset completely changes. So this is the land required to feed a vegetarian versus a meat eater. And a lot of my information comes from the World Wildlife Fund or UNICEF or UNESCO. So these are kind of very general statistics, but it gives you a really good idea of the impact diet has. And just to give some quick definitions, vegetarian do eat dairy and eggs. Vegans tend to remove all animal products from their diet. So that also includes things like honey because they are coming from bees. And then there's, you know, a misconception that vegan equals healthy. And I have to remind people that with any diet you choose, there is a way to do it in a healthy way and an unhealthy way. And so this, I hope you guys all know what it is. So this is an Oreo. And I like to ask people to think whether this is a healthy product or a not healthy product. And I think all of us can agree that it's highly processed, it's full of chemicals, and this would be considered not healthy. However, it is vegan. So there is a way to definitely be vegan and not healthy. So we try to help people also learn about healthy eating and eating a balanced diet. And this, I'm not advocating for, you know, like fully raw, you know, only fruits and plants, but vegetables. But I do believe that if you have the knowledge, you can eat a more balanced diet. So that brings us to plant-based whole food, our philosophy at Uchacha. And that just means that we try to use the fruits and vegetables as close to its natural form as possible without a lot of processing, without a lot of too much cooking, too much oil. And that's the kind of food we serve at Uchacha. And so this is just kind of one look, one small like data point if you were to adopt a more plant-based diet. So if you look down here, if one person exchanges eating meat for a vegan diet, they'll reduce their carbon dioxide emissions by 1.5 tons per year. This is removing animal products from your diet. And you would save about almost 11,000 liters of water. So there are some actually really cool things in the future for kind of like the vegan plant-based space, like alternative proteins, such as I'm sure you've heard of Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat, and plant-based, cultured, and fermented alternative proteins. So this is a kind of a quick look at our global food system. Now, obviously, it can seem really daunting, and everything is very interconnected. But for me, as I've learned more about this topic, I find that the answer really is a more holistic viewpoint of how to tackle our whole food systems, extracting just one problem or looking very narrowly at one problem and looking for solutions for that one problem can often cause unintended consequences. So I try to think about our restaurant in kind of like a micro ecosystem of how we can make it more circular, but also how does it fit into our community and how does the community fit into the larger context. So I try to think about our impact on each level, so each sphere of influence. So paradoxically, we talk about the food system and we hear a lot of things about poverty and hunger, but then at the same time in wealthier nations like the global north, we hear about problems like obesity. So this paradox has to do with something that's kind of led me to our most current work, and it's food justice. It's this idea that everyone deserves and has a right to nutritious food. So that has a lot of implications. And part of it is food is political, and food companies often will target certain populations based on what they're offering or not offering. So my work is kind of leading me to think about how we can actually use food to create a more, fair future. And so this is kind of the work that I'm moving towards today. And agroecology is a huge part of that. And it means living and growing in balance with the natural systems around you. And permaculture is a huge part of that. It's looking at how to create and cultivate healthy soil again, because a lot of our soil is no longer filled with the kind of microbes that you need to create food that is actually really nutritionally dense. So even though we're growing a lot of food, the nutrition is not actually in that food anymore. So this is the goal. This would be a perfect system, and where we would be able to work together with the natural systems and able to feed the world's population. So this is kind of my philosophy. It's not the food systems that need to be fixed. It needs to be completely shifted and changed, and that starts with shifting the power. Thanks, everyone. I know that was a lot of information, but I just wanted to try to give you an overview of what we're doing.
Thank you, Mari, for sharing your journey and all the information about the vegan community. So next, wait a second. All right, so for our next speaker here, we have Tim. and he's been doing his research in actually the same university as me, National Tonghua University. And his research revolved around insects, learning about their nutrition and their uses in food systems. So he also farmed crickets and incorporates them into different kinds of food in his own sea canteen. And I'm very curious about their various cricket-based foods. But apart from food, Sea Canteen also promotes and educates about edible insects and sustainable food systems. And now we have the honor to hear him out about his research and his products. So let's welcome Timothy Sickings.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the introduction. Tough act to follow up, that was a very comprehensive food systems analysis there, I think. Let's see, I might have one or two things to add, but I think that was pretty much saying the most important things. So yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for organizing this today. I want to speak a little bit about our project, a little bit about food systems, and a little bit about insects, I think, today. And I've been doing so many academic presentations recently, so I try to de-academize my presentation for a more general audience, but it might still be a little bit academic. Let's see, so please bear with me. Is my audio and everything okay so far?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, but
Okay,
if
cool.
you want, you
Sounds
can share,
Yeah,
put
share
your
full screen.
slide bigger.
Full screen. Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so we're called Sea Canteen. C stands for cricket. The Chinese name is Shi Canting. We've been doing what we're doing since about 2015. As I said, we are a research project primarily at Donghua University in Hualien. But we are kind of a hybrid, so we are also half like a mini startup, if you like. And we go out and engage kind of also commercially in a way. Yeah, we do action research, we do kind of public scholarship. So the idea is we bring the issues that we are interested in, we bring those out into the public, discuss them with people, we involve people in what we're doing, what we're trying to find out, and also in always testing our results. We farm crickets, we make food with crickets, and we involve people in a range of different types of interventions. So that's what we do. Up here you see me and our partner in this project, Dida Song. She's from Tenor Rice, near Uli. It's a rice company. So she has a background in agricultural economics, and she's also a designer. So she designed our logo, which I think I like a lot. Quick rewind to the question of food systems. So I think, as Mai has already elaborated on, the idea that there's something wrong with our food systems is definitely gaining traction. We had a report in The Lancet a couple of years ago. They introduced this idea of a great food transformation. This idea is also kind of becoming popular as everything is in a transformation, like we are in these sustainability transformations at various levels, from the global to the local, and then through all the fields of human activity in the economy, industry, and also in the food system. And yeah, with regards to food, there is, of course, a lot of different approaches to how food systems can be made more sustainable, like from the production processing side to the food itself, to systems, and also to people, like education, educating people, expanding food literacy. So a lot of different approaches. And we are, with our approach, we are within the alternative protein movement. And Mai also mentioned it, there are several things that you might know. This lab-grown meat, microproteins, precision fermentation, plant-based meat analogs. So the idea here is to look at the foods we eat and see if we can shift to like more sustainable foods. And within this movement, there's this worldwide edible insect movement that's been active for a good 10 years now, since the first big reports came out at the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization level, big edible insect reports. And so the research here is really taking off, a lot of knowledge produced, a lot of startups, a lot of companies in this sector trying to figure out how to use insects as food. And so for some people, this is already kind of maybe normal. And for some people, this might still be a shock, as it was to me about 10 years ago, when I was confronted with this idea, because I never thought about eating insects at all for most of my life. And so the question I want to quickly answer is like, why insects? Oh my God, why would you want to eat insects? Isn't that disgusting? The answer is, well, it is for some people, and it's not really necessarily disgusting. One thing you need to know about insects is that they are the most species rich of all the animal classes on the planet. So there's millions of different species of insects. In addition, in terms of biomass, after plants, bacteria, and fungi, insects constitute the largest share of biomass in the living world. So it's a great resource just in numbers, right? That's why insects have been called one of the world's most neglected food sources. And little known to many people, insects have always been part of human foodways. Throughout history, across cultures, we can find edible insect traditions, including in my home region, which is Europe. We used to eat cockchafers, like it's a type of beetle. It was a seasonal resource, and it was cooked in soup form and also cooked with honey. And up until the Second World War, that was quite common in Central Europe. And many other countries have different types of edible insect traditions. But it's not really a big thing in the sense that you see lots of insect foods when you go out to restaurants or shopping in supermarkets. Why is this? So I think one reason is that like many other traditional foods, insects have been displaced by modern food systems. I think lots of vegetables and lots of interesting regional and kind of healthy and sustainable foods have been displaced by modern food systems, by foods that can be produced on scale and industrially and stuff like that. So edible insects also kind of were displaced. And the other thing is that as like modern Western foods, I want to add that I think there's been a spread, right, of kind of the Western modern diet in some ways. And the other thing is, in terms of this new modern edible insect movements, that's creating lots of new innovative insect snacks. There are still lots of barriers that prevent this from being more spread and more accepted. These barriers have to do with different things. From the personal level, so this idea that people have a bias towards insects. Insects are regarded as dirty, disgusting, and dangerous by many people. And there's this big yuck factor that when people hear insects, they think of cockroaches or spiders or something, and they just feel a natural repulsion. And this is not something you would want to have on your plate. Indeed, we know the waiter, there's a soup in my, there's a fly in my soup joke, right? Whereupon the waiter says, anyway, that's a different story. So discussed, and then there's also institutional regulatory barriers in many countries. It's not clear, are insects livestock? Do the same livestock production standards apply to farming insects as they do to farming cattle or pigs or poultry? So they're not really regulated, and that's a big bottleneck in the European Union, also in Taiwan. And then the other barrier has to do also kind of with knowledge. amongst all these millions of insect species, which insects can we actually eat? How do we eat them? How can we make food of insects? What are the traditions? So this is a question of food literacy, that we simply do not have the vocabulary and the knowledge of the insect world in terms of when it becomes food in a way. Yeah. So this is what our project is about, to kind of shed more light onto some of these questions, and also try to put what we learn also into action immediately in Taiwan, because compared to other countries in the world, we found that Taiwan is kind of 10 years behind in terms of the knowledge, in terms of sort of the startups and things like that. Is anybody keeping track of my time? Actually, I think I've got 10 more minutes or so. Stop me if I talk too much or I exceed my time. Yeah, I try to stick to, I think 20 minutes you say is the maximum, right? Yeah, so Taiwan is about 10 years behind. We're trying to sort of catch up by doing the research here and engaging people, spreading the knowledge. Very quick slides. That humans use insects is nothing new. We have a 9,000-year history of beekeeping, making honey. We have 8,000 years of history of using insects for silk production, for example. And the idea is kind of to, now expand this more and learn from some of the countries that have a bigger edible insect tradition, and to see that we can increase their role as food in our food systems. Yeah. So we focus on crickets. They are amongst the world's most farmed insect species. The species that we use is native to Taiwan, so people can actually go out and find these crickets in the fields. They could then take them home and start colonies and start their own farms very easily. This is something that we feel kind of passionate about, that people can just farm insects on a household scale very easily, actually, and thereby kind of recycle some of their food waste that they have in their households, upcycle it into new nutrition in the animal proteins through the crickets, and have a kind of another leg to stand on when it comes to nutritional food security on a household, or community-based scale. Most insects are very nutritious. High levels of protein, lipids, carbohydrates, and also micronutrients. Very comparable to other sources of, or main sources of nutrition, meat, poultry, tofu, things like that. So they're very comparable in terms of nutrition, plus that they add fiber, which usually you only get from fruits and vegetables, and fiber is actually also quite good as a, it's not really a nutrient. Some people I think call it anti-nutrient, but it has a role in digestion and for the gut microbiome. And so in terms of being, in addition to being nutritious, the sort of big benefit that insects have is in terms of production, they are sustainable. At least they have potential to be very sustainable. It always depends on the systems. But in general, they have a very small land footprint. So when you farm crickets, you can do it in boxes, you can do it vertically, in cities. It's very versatile, and they don't need land. In this graphic, you see from left to right, the amount of land needed to produce 1 kilogram of either beef, pork, chicken, or crickets. And you see, compared to beef, which is the most environmentally costly food, crickets are much less requiring of land. After land footprint, we can also look at the water footprint. Again, beef is the most water-hungry meat and protein source, and insects and crickets again use only a fraction of the water that other animals need. It has to do with the insect, physiology, the biology. It's a different class of animal. They don't have much need for water. And another thing we can look at is the pollution, greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram of protein. Again, the 3 main sources of livestock compared to crickets. very simplified, obviously here, but we see that crickets are very sort of non-polluting and also very energy friendly in a sense, as a looked at it from the production side. So this is that. So with our project, we bring these kind of discussions, these kind of topics, we bring them out to a larger public audience in various ways. So through education, we've been doing workshops, classes, lectures, presentations, and also tasting sessions. And then we also engage as a little mini startup. So we go to markets and festivals and we sell cricket foods, also online. And always as part of this is always talking about the bigger issues at stake here, the impact of our food systems on the environment, food literacy, our food choices, and then specific benefits of insects, and just kind of try and open people's minds, talk about this, and also get some feedback. What do people think of this? How do they react? What are their preferences? Things like that. So this is part of our research as well. We do this also through social media, through Facebook and Instagram, kind of just to spread the message and try to have this conversation on a bigger scale with more people involved. So more people can have this discussion. So later we can just have more things to talk about, more options, more choices, like Mai also mentioned, I think. No, it was at the beginning. It was mentioned that the idea of having more choices available. And so we've done a lot of interventions over the last couple of years, and we've probably reached over 1,000 people with information and knowledge, and also with our cricket products, to give people a first taste and an impression and an experience of what insects can actually taste like. For a while, we ran a little offline, a brick and mortar shop on the East Coast here near Uli. It's called the Sea Cafe, where we sold some of our crickets. Otherwise, here in the middle, you see a market stall at the Harvest Festival in Fuli. We did that for 3 years in a row. And then otherwise, when we do conferences or something, we bring some of our products and materials, and we do like pop-up shops and let people taste our stuff, and also buy some samples if they want. So they can also take it home and share with the people. So, yeah. As I said, we do this sort of multi or anti-disciplinary, engaging really across the board with different research fields and people, also outside academia, obviously. And also we do this in a framework that's called the Golden Triangle. So on the one hand, we work with science, we want to be evidence-based. On the other hand, we work as a little private enterprise and with private enterprise to understand the requirements in that field of private business or something, and also understand some of the possibilities and barriers in that field. And we also do this by engaging with the public sector. So your Joe Bag of Donuts, right? The normal, average, day-to-day people, the general public, as you can call them. How do these people, how do other people understand these topics and issues? How do they talk about them? How do we need to change our language and our presentation to be able to communicate these issues? Because obviously you can't confront people with this academic discourse. It's too abstract. People can't relate to that. So how can we make it more relatable? That's actually very challenging, what we found. Yeah, we do this with mixed qualitative methods, and the idea is to not just do sort of ivory tower research for ourselves to get a degree and have sort of our own academic capital, but actually to really have some kind of social impact beyond the walls of the academy in the real world. Yeah. Quickly, we found in the process some cool foods that we now work with. We've been inspired by tradition. On the one hand, Vietnamese tradition. Very cool to cook freshly cooked crickets, spicy, deep fried, as a snack or as a meal food. This works very well. People are very open to seeing the whole cricket here in Taiwan. This is different to what sort of Western consumers feel about edible insects. The other tradition we found is a Japanese tradition, This is good for making preserved snack food. It's called tsukodani. It's a sweet food that can be adapted to different flavors. And this is also kind of popular and it works very well. So I think these things are kind of, what's the word? Commercializable, I think. That's what our experience shows us.
Sorry, Tim.
I
think, I think we have around 2 more minutes left for your session.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just
so, okay, thanks a lot. So I'm wrapping up then. Younger people, when they're confronted with our insects, for them it's like, wow, food of the future, so interesting. For older people, interestingly, they say it's like food of the past. It's like, oh, here in Taiwan, in the countryside, oh, I remember this. Like, we used to go and play with crickets in the fields, or my parents used to eat crickets. It used to be quite common in the old days. So again, different ways people understand this and talk about this. And finally, we found one of the main barrier in Taiwan is that we have a lacking regulation. So we can't actually now go ahead and sell cricket foods commercially because they're not accepted as foods in Taiwan by the Taiwan Food and Drug Administration. So there needs to be more work done, and sort of we need to apply for non-traditional food status with sort of evidence about allergy and food safety and things. So this is the main barrier we're facing now in Taiwan, other than other countries which don't have this barrier. Good news is that we formed the Taiwan Edible Insect Industry Association 2 years ago. And this is an NGO, a non-profit organization. We're trying to sort of lobby the government for more favorable regulation. And we're also trying to continue the work in terms of educating people, bringing the topic out there, both in theory and in practice, raising awareness, and things like that. And so with that said, this is the end for my presentation. So thank you very much for your attention. Looking forward to the discussion later or something like that. Yeah, cheers.
Thank you, Tim.
I'm going to stop my video.
All right. Thank you, Tim. That was really insightful. And I think for most of us here are very new information. So thank you for sharing that. And for our final speaker today, we have Yi here. And she has been upcycling food scraps and implementing zero lifestyle. So she has her very own beverage brand, 微醺派对 Tipsy Party Green Life. And this brand has a lineup of different kombuchas. So these kombuchas are environmentally friendly from the ingredient to the packaging. So I think it's a very interesting take of sustainable food system. And apart from that, she's also the leader of Green Drinks Taichung, which is an environmental social hub that is open for all people in Taichung. So if you're interested in gatherings on sustainability and you're in Taichung, you can hit her up later. So enough from me. So let's hear it out from Yi.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you for amazing sharing. Let me share my screen. Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Before I start, let me cheers with you. This is my favorite drink. It's a Perilla kombucha. I really like the color and a little bit fizzy, and so everybody, you can, if you have a cup of water or drinks or beverage on hand, let's cheers. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit about my zero waste life journey, and also with my my brand, 微醺派对 Green Life. So I'm going to talk a little bit about climate change and food waste, and then sustainable life and food and beverage and fermented drinks workshop I'm teaching, and a micro beverage business I own, and of course green drinks. So this is the fan page of my Facebook page. So every drinks you see, they're all from natural ingredients and nothing chemical or colored. So very simple ingredients and very easy to make. And I teach people how to do it and also sell it. So what do you see here? So this is a photo I took when I do marine debris pickup, and you see the beautiful sunset, but also you see a lot of trash. A lot of them are like plastic bottles, and so they're really damaging our environment. So I love to drink all kinds of beverage or drinks. So especially a bubble tea or Coke or all kinds of drinks I love to drink, but I don't want to create more environmental burden. So I try to reduce, or of course I know there are recycle choices, but I want to do it just reduce from the beginning. And then I got also in my daily life, I bring these with me, like a eco food bag, tableware, and water bottle. Very, very basic and very light. I carry them around with me so I can avoid disposable items. Yeah, and for my for the beverage, I just use the water bottle to for them, and so I can reuse them, and after well cleaned, and I can recycle them and reuse them. So enough about the bottles. Now, so I believe everybody, maybe most of you already know, most of you already had this fruit in this picture. It's pomelo, and we have a lot in Mid-Autumn Festival. But you know what? We only eat half of it. So you see picture on the left, this one weighs 516 grams. And the part that we don't eat on your picture on the right is the part that we don't eat. So these leftovers or food scraps, what do they go? Where do they go? In Taiwan, we do compost. From the government would do compost, or either compost or landfill, or go to the incinerator. And that just creates a lot of environmental like carbon emission. So I learned this from my teacher about using upcycling this to turn into delicious beverage. So I fermented them, and then we can eat them. So this is like a circle that I make so in the middle picture, it's like of the farm. So we harvest the fruit or veg or whatever, and then we eat them. And for the leftovers, the scrapes and the peels, I can use them become to like fermented drinks, like a cider. And then if you don't finish them, you can still, I do like compost. So for example, pineapple peels that I don't eat. So we can do compost, and then it becomes very, very good soil and very nutritious for the land. And it goes back to the land and creates a really nice circle. So that's called zero waste. And so that's what I'm trying to convey. It's that it's not just the drinks, it's just all kinds of the possibilities in sustainable life. And I share this kind of attitude and share this really nice living style. And okay, and then so for about food waste, if it's a country, it's a carbon emission country, it will be like the third big country in the world. So it really creates a lot of, not just waste and carbon emission, and also waste the water, land, labor, a lot of things. So what can we do about it? And also even during COVID, there are even more food waste. Like there are no labor to processing the food. So there are a lot of like milk or eggs. They were like they have to go into a landfill in the origin. So that's just really sad. So and also in Taiwan we have a Facebook group to share food. Well, so basically all the city you can do that, and then you can just post where you are, how's the food condition, and then you can just cut private message to each other, and pretty much you can like solve the problem of not eating or leftover, but not really like or like untouched the food. So don't worry about the hygiene condition. So yeah, so we have already. So this is a quote from my teacher. She said we have already take away from the land. So if we use every part of the food, and we can reduce it, and then it's respect. It shows respect. It's also help ourselves. Okay. So this is the picture. I have my partner in the rest. I have partner with my partner restaurant that they serve the meal that is use the ingredients from the market. Like for like ugly shape, so nobody really buys them, but they're still edible. And so this partner, they collect from the market and then cook into a really delicious meal. And I hire crop with them to have a meal set with my drinks and the delicious meal. So people really like it and very popular. It's in Taichung, so if ever encounter in Taichung, you can stop by and have dinner with me. Okay, and so also I teach people in the how to do it. Use fruit scrapes, fruit peels, veggie scrapes, and so this is the one I do workshop in elementary school teacher with elementary school teacher. So they're really happy that they can learn something, and really like even they can make a delicious drinks by themselves. So one teacher you can bring a positive effect to whole class. So I really like to teach with these teachers. And also I also have other like workshops for like regular like people. So in different venue, I teach different ciders or kombucha, and in a sustainable way in the meantime. So the previous the talk is also in my workshop. I will introduce it to my students. Okay, so I'm going to share super easy cider ingredients. So basically like fruit peel, pulp, herbs, you can use it, and clean water and sugar and lemon juice and some yeast or just some cider to create a good environment in the fermentation. And then you can have really nice and delicious and beautiful looking drinks, cider. So just have fun with it. And so in the picture, actually the picture on the left top, it's a passion fruit peel, and the bottom is another kind of passion fruit peel. So we can eat the pulp, and then for the peel, we can use it to make fermented drink like cider, and just use whatever you want, and then you can have fun with it. Especially when we're having a lockdown, I had a lot of fun. Okay, after like Okay, so after these fermented finished, the scrapes or the peels, I can use it as a jam. So just a little very simple processing, like you just add a little bit of water and just time, and then you wait for the fermentation, and you got really delicious jam. And also, actually, this is my favorite part. I always like to get people to taste and then ask them to guess what it is. So does anybody want to guess? Maybe, okay, okay, so on the right, actually, I'm going to just say the answer. So on the right is a banana peel. Did somebody answer?
Yes, actually, Matt said banana. So
Yes. Yeah, actually, it's really very good. Yeah, I was surprised you didn't eat it, and then you know what it is. Yeah, it's really good and full of fiber and nutritious. Actually, in the fruit scrapes, they have the most nutritious of the parts. So, but one thing is to be, you need to pay attention, is that we usually for the fruit scrapes we're eating, we eat from only organic food. So not like ordinary, otherwise you don't want to get some chemicals and stuff in your body, right? So yeah, the right is the banana peel, and the left is banana peel and something pink. Okay, I know I think it's a little bit hard, but it's all from fruits. So this one is dragon fruit peel. Yeah, actually dragon fruit peel, so you can see the color, like the pink color. And some people told me that they look like they're super dragon fruit. Can go Ling. Yeah, so the pink thing is dragon fruit. Yeah, so it's, some people even say you can use it to make vegan sushi because it really looks like salmon. Yeah. So this is just some part of the fermented snacks. So it's really easy to make. So when I teach my students, and they all really love to do it, and it just tastes a little bit, not just like the original fruits, like the taste, it also has different taste because of a fermentation. So which is really interesting. Also, this kind of jam or snacks doesn't require energy to make it. So you don't need to use gas or whatever. You just need time and sugar to let them do the work. So which is energy, save the energy actually, and also save your money because you don't need to buy the snacks, and also you can save the packaging. So this is really good way to introduce a zero waste lifestyle for people. Okay. So also I make kombucha, but I think everybody, so maybe some of you know, some of you don't know. Kombucha is a kind of fermented tea. They are very good. There are many great brands in Taiwan already, and so so they're really easy and simple ingredients. Just tea leaves, hot water, and then sugar and SCOBY. The SCOBY, it means a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And some people think or worry about bacteria, thinking they are worried about the hygiene problem, but actually they're good bacteria for the fermentation. So they can ferment very well and bring the very good nutritious, and make the tea become very nutritious beverage. So what I do is I teach people how to make kombucha. I sell kombucha, and I also make kombucha with cider. So this thing here is the Perilla cider kombucha. So it's my favorite. I love the color. I love the taste. So yeah, just really love to share it with everybody. Okay. In the meantime, I use when I teach at the workshop, I also introduce this thing. Has anyone used this before?
No, not for me. I've never seen it.
Okay. Okay. So this is called oil camellia washing powder. So yes, it's for washing, for doing dishes. So it's from oil camellia. It got 10% of natural saponin. So it is very good to do this kind of washing. And also after I wash them, I can keep the water for plants because it's totally natural. In 2021, there was drought in Taichung. I live in Taichung, by the way. So we have good weather, but we don't have rain. So we really experience water shortage. And even now, I just until now, from then until now, I really care about water consumption. So even when I'm doing dishes, washing, especially with the bottles, these kind of glass bottles, I use this oil camellia washing powder, and then I keep the water and then use them for plants, for watering the plants, or for the bathroom, yeah, toilet use, and they're really good. So so it's no problem at all, actually. And so if you're ever interested, and there are these things very easy to buy online, and you just basically mix with water and you get some kind of paste texture, and then you just use it on your dishes and cleans very well, and also harm-free to your hands. Yeah, very good. So you can try if you are interested. Uh-oh, my slide doesn't move. Okay. So I want to express what my brand do is for SDGs is a responsible consumption and production. And so basically, when I go to either like produce or when I sell it, I always try to reduce the waste. Like the chart you see previous is I become a nice circle for the environment. And I also sell for people who use their own water bottle, or I recycle the glass bottle I use. And so I hope everything can be reused again. And of course, I really take the cleaning part seriously. And so you don't really have to worry about that. And enough for green drinks. So now I'm going to introduce you about green drinks. This is not a business. It's just a kind of event, a nonprofit event I started with friends, which actually my friend in Taipei started Green Drinks Taipei, and they sometimes host the events in Wuchacha. So that's how I know Wuchacha, but because I never been to Wuchacha in Taipei. But that's how I know they have, my friends chose the venue for Taipei Green Drinks and other places. So Green Drinks is a global event. It's a city-based host. It's a very, we want to create a very relaxed atmosphere. Hosting. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Martin is my friend, and he also encouraged me to start this Green Drinks Taichung. So yeah, so we just find we do events for people to gather around and to discuss about sustainable or green or NGO or environmental issues in a really relaxed or fun setting, such as cafe, a bar, restaurant, or a nice place like Uchacha. Yes. Yeah. So we have actually roughly 10 or more or less 10 people each time. Yes. And also sometimes we do picnic outdoor. Like this event is, we are a circular cup just came out in Taichung. So I introduced the people in Green Drinks Taichung, and then we do like a small picnic evening in outdoor. It was quite okay and quite fun actually. So yeah, so if you're ever interested, you can join us either in person or virtually. We have a Facebook group. It's Taichung 绿色畅聊, or you can just simply type Green Drinks Taichung. And so you can, we host events monthly, once a month. And so next one will be in April, mid-April. And so you can either join in person, come to the event, or you can join to the Facebook group just for chatting or discussion. We're really, really welcome. And that's all. Thank you very much for listening.
All right, thank you, Yi.
Thank you.
Wow, I think it's very cool to see the versatility use of food scraps that you have learned over the years. And once again, thank you for all the insightful talks from our speakers today. But I would like to dive deeper with you guys today. So for three of you, Mai, Tim, and Yi, you're all running your own F&B business, but on top of all, you're always educating the public on a more sustainable approach towards their dietary habits and maybe their carbon footprint as well. And I can imagine it can be very hard sometimes, as some people might still be reluctant to receiving this kind of information. So can you share your experience and advice on communicating the message to various target audiences if you see any changes over the years of doing your business? So maybe we can start from mine.
Sure. For us, our approach is always food first. So usually people are much more willing to listen and have conversations if they try something delicious. So it's, there's sayings in almost every culture about like the fastest way to someone's heart is through their stomach, right?
Yeah.
So usually, people, if you have them try tasty food, then you can tell them, oh, did you know it's vegan? Or do you know there's insect? Or this was made from food scraps? Then they're like, wait, what? It's delicious.
Yeah.
So then they're interested, and then there's some curiosity. And then from there, you can actually start to educate a lot more. Like without that approach, I find people are really defensive because food is very sacred. It has a lot of cultural ties. It's very personal for a lot of people. So they don't want to feel attacked about their choices, but it's all about empowering and educating people kind of gently. We try to take a very gentle approach about it.
Definitely, definitely. That's the key to my heart as well, food. So what
Yeah.
about we hear from Tim?
Yeah, one aspect you say over time, how has it changed? I think in our example, it changed in the sense that we've just become a little bit better and better incrementally at like working with crickets as a food ingredient and kind of developing our, I don't know, what products or flavors or presentation, everything. So as that has become better, the reaction and the feedback has become better. Right? That makes sense. Initially, it's really weird. It's not like anything else, you know, from cooking. It's very specific cooking with a cricket. It's not like a shrimp. It's not like a piece of chicken. It's not like a vegetable. So you have to figure out how to work with these ingredients. So the resonance has become better, I think, as our food has become better. And I think I agree with Mai that people are very sensitive to food issues, and we're very careful not to push people to anything, like because you do get people who are very well intentioned, and they like try to push people or convince people. My experience, especially like vegan and vegetarians, in my experience, are often quite pushy. They try to convert you to becoming vegan or vegetarian because it's like it's the right thing to do. And then I react very allergically. I think other people also react allergically to being pushed to anything. So we just show what we do, and we try to let people taste it. And if they like it, fine. If not, fine too. There's no pressure. I think that's really important. Yeah, I think that's if that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
little
I'm
bit.
definitely very hopeful for insects to be the food source that can be accessible to all kinds of people. So yeah, lastly, maybe you can hear from Yi.
Oh, thank you. I think it's also difficult for me to do this communication, like people to asking people to support organic fruits, or to like collect my bottles so that they can use it again and again. Otherwise, just use once and then go to the recycle system, which is not really like efficient. So I usually use like beautiful pictures. like and the drinks I make, they're so colorful and people are really into it. Yeah, so they wanted to learn to make it by themselves. And from the workshop, I give them the ideas I want to communicate with. Usually really well, works really well. And some people they just don't want to do it by themselves. They just want to buy it. Then that's how I started to sell the drinks. And so basically I kind of like talk to my clients a lot, like and then when it's a good time, I can collect the bottles, something like that, because at the moment it's still a micro business in Taichung. And so and then I do become friends with them. So and then and so it's also easier that I can get some feedback from them. Yeah, so I think it's actually okay, but it just I use a lot of ideas and photos and communicating and events actually. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've seen the Facebook fan page, and if you guys, the audience, can go to Yui's fan page, 微醺派对, and they have really great photos there and the colorful drinks. I'm really excited to try it out for once. So now I'm gonna open the floor to all the audience here. If you have any questions to our speakers, you can type it out, or you can actually open your microphone and interact with the speakers. All right. Actually, I still do have questions for each of you because yeah, that was really insightful talks. So going back to mine, I'm curious because I think it's getting relatively easier to find vegetarian and vegan foods in Taiwan. But since veganism is more than just food, what are your thoughts and vision for Taiwan's future and education on veganism?
Thanks for the question. So I do want to clarify the reason why when we were thinking about this business, we decided to do it in Taiwan and maybe like not from. So my husband and I are from the US, California. Why we didn't want to take this back to the US is because there is a really rich history of Buddhism and vegetarian eating here, but it's rooted more in religious or spiritual practices. And for us, we were coming more from like a health and environmental perspective. So we kind of wanted to give this kind of different lens on the diet. And so we don't focus as much on like the allium family and that part of that specifically, but we know that there's already like a huge curiosity for this and exposure for like vegetarian eating. So that's why kind of we chose Taiwan, is we knew it was primed to kind of learn about like this different view, this different perspective. It's still a lot of work, you know, 10 years in, it's still a lot of education and advocacy and empowering. But I think for us, it's just helping Taiwan reconnect more with its indigenous knowledge and working with the land that it has here. And hopefully, you know, the goal is always self-sufficiency, right? As an island nation, it relies heavily on imports. And so, you know, we've seen with the pandemic, as the global supply chain becomes more integrated and relied on, it can cause a lot of problems if your country doesn't have its own way to feed itself. And you don't want other countries to have that power as well. So that, like I always say, food is political. And, you know, there's a lot of ramifications if we don't try to figure out how to, you know, use the land better that is here in Taiwan and the knowledge that is already here.
Right, thank you. I'm definitely looking forward to more and more people being exposed to this information and veganism in Taiwan. So I'm gonna ask Tim next, because I've seen the interventions and people that you have reached over the years is really amazing. And you have different age stream as well, from the young to old, but there are still some barriers in insects as food in the public. So Tim, I would like to ask, how can we contribute to your project and to the future of insect-based food source?
Is that the final call to action message or something you're referring to? Or that's a question, normal question?
That's a question. We have still the call to action session later.
All right, yeah, okay, I see. I was gonna say something first to Mai, that I mean, I love eating vegetarian and vegan as much as I can. So I totally love that. The interesting question with insects is also, how do they work with vegetarians and vegans? So we have lots of vegetarian and or vegan friends, and for some it's no problem, and for others it is. So it's very funny how people categorize food in different ways, and then what it means to them in different ways. With regards to the your question was about how in Taiwan people can be more find a way to contribute to this development. Oh yeah, good question. I would say it's in a way it's people should be just follow their curiosity. If they find something curious, like follow that. If it's about edible insects, follow that. It's a bit difficult if there's no real supply. Like in Taiwan, if people want to eat edible insects, but they can't really go anywhere, or they can to a few places, but it's not really a big thing. So it's I think at this point it's really also got to do with a small community now of people in Taiwan who are working on this, who are making this topic available in theory, but also in practice. So we farm crickets. We've supplied different projects with crickets. One was a culinary school in Taichung. They bought 1 kilogram to make their own, for their research, to make different cricket foods and then do their own research project. Another part I supplied to a lady who was working with a Taiwan Green Schools initiative. I don't know if you know about this. This will be interesting. The Ministry of Education Green School project for Taiwan. So they're trying to cooperate with schools from primary to university level, I think, or to high school level, to implement some kind of sustainability measures or actions. And so one lady was over a year also working on a project with students to learn about crickets, to understand them better as an animal, and then also to cook with them and then eat with them. And then that was a year-long project where we also supplied her with the crickets, make that possible. Another person was a guy from Taichung as well, who is a Boy Scout leader, and he's also part of the sort of edible insect community in Taiwan. And so we also helped him, supplied him with crickets and raw crickets, because he did a big workshop with like 50 students where they also cooked together with crickets and stuff like that. So in some way, it's still down to sort of innovative startup little community to help this process at the beginning, I think, to make it available to more people. And then that's the starting point, or the starting steps, I think. And also what Mai said, I think this idea of vegetarianism is actually a long tradition in Taiwan and in the Chinese culture, from related to religion, Buddhism or Taoism or things like that. So edible insects as well are a tradition in the Hakka communities, I think, in Taiwan. And it used to be common to some degree, and it's just being sort of, it's a forgotten tradition to some extent. And so it's also interesting to look at it that way, to say, well, we can help people remember, right? Like tradition from the past that's just been displaced, and like maybe there's some value to it, or some good taste to it, or some interest in it. So so to provide keys to unlocking some of these memories from the parents or grandparents, and then see what could this tradition look like in a modern world, right? Can it be reinvented and innovated in a way that would work with the modern food ways or something?
Okay, thank you, Jim. But we have from our audience here, Bright is asking you, I'm curious how insect processing is like before we eat. Tim, you're muted.
Sorry, I said a trade secret. Tell Bright I'll talk to him in person about that.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, definitely, Bright. You can hit him up later, and we will share
But thanks for the question.
all of the connections for our speakers as well. All right. So lastly, I have a question for you, E, because I think it's really great how you're so willing to share all your learnings to the public, and you have created this ripple effect that by holding workshops for teachers so that they can go on to share to their students as well. So can you share more about why you started the journey of making fermented drinks, and how did you learn about making use of this food scraps or fruit peels? Yeah, and maybe you can share also about how we can maybe buy your products at Weishun Paidui.
Thank you. Well, my journey is actually from air pollution. I live in Taichung, and we have the biggest coal power plant in the world. That like now is like a second or third. But anyways, so it was 2015. I started to notice the fog I see is not really fog, is actually air pollution, and then get me to want to dig more about air pollution. And then I learned from local NGO they have talks about climate change, energy, and pollution in general. So I started to care about the energy transition and also about the waste I create, because the waste I create goes to incinerator, also generates air pollution, and also the electricity I use, the car I drive, or scooter I drive, also creates a lot of pollution. So that makes me started to look in my life, how can I be more sustainable? And I've been so I become trying to like really care about how to reduce waste in my life. And in the meantime, I met this teacher. She's from China, actually. She was doing an island travel around Taiwan island. And then also she just traveling around Taiwan and teaching. So that's how I learned in the beginning. And then later on, my teacher, she settled down in Yilan, and she also became a farmer, and she write books, more about this fermentation using fruit scrapes, and basically that everybody can eat every part of the fruit. So there are no throwaway or just waste go to or to a landfill. So I really like this idea, and the drink is actually really good. It's a little bit fizzy, and also looks really beautiful actually. And so it's delicious drinking, and also really good to eat, like really good and healthy. Or maybe it's still it's drinks with sugar, so we need to pay attention about that actually. But kombucha is way healthier than cider. So that's how I started to do it. And then because I host green drinks and monthly, I like to share. So I started to share kombucha and cider with my friends in green drinks. And then I got started to ask some questions like, do you teach them? Can you teach me how to do it? And then so I started. And then later on, there were some people say, I want to just buy it. So and then I started to think, maybe I can sell them. And that's how the journey began. And later on, I got some invitations to teach in workshops, not just teachers, also like regular, like everybody. Yes, that's basically like till now.
Okay, thank you, Yi. Hopefully we
Thank
can
you.
all have the opportunity to join in your workshop someday.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going a little bit over time here, but just bear with me for a few minutes. We have our call to action session today. So maybe we can start from you, Yi. What's your call to action to the public?
Well, welcome everybody to join Taiwan Green Drinks, either virtually or in person. Actually, I already put my call to action in my slide, but anyways, so you can either join me or just have a chat through Weishin Paidui Green Life. And I have one sentence for everybody. Every time you spend money, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want. And that's not from me, it's from a person called named Anna Lab. So I think it's really meaningful, and I want to introduce to everybody and to think about it, or yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Tim.
Okay, thanks. I would say two things. The first, I also just borrow what other people say. Growing or farming or making your own food might be one of the most revolutionary things you can do. And it's very, very empowering to be doing that. The second thing is connecting to what Yi says. We need to try and keep value in the community, I think, including monetary value. So yeah, when you spend money and you have the choice between something cheap or something from someone you like or something local, then always go with the local option, the people you like, the people you believe in, rather than the cheaper option. So yes, every penny we spend is kind of a vote for the kind of world we want to live in. I totally agree with you on that, actually.
Thank you. Okay, and now let's hear from Mai.
Hi, love all of your points and quotes so far. For me, my one call to action would just be to think about your food choices and try to incorporate one vegan meal into your diet, like a day, a week, a month, doesn't matter.
Right. Thank you for all of that. And as we have mentioned in the beginning, Power to Change is a project where we encourage banks and consumers to change to digital statements or e-bills. So the cost saved will be converted into a significant amount of savings. And we will reinvest this money to help energy poverty households in Taiwan to install LED lights, making their electricity bills lower and have a brighter environment. So we need the collective effort from each of you to make this happen by voicing your opinion through our petition here. So if you can scan this QR code, or our IT will put it in our chat box as well. So our movement team is not only in Taiwan, we have also Paraguay, Japan, and Thailand movement going on. And we're excited to have more and more countries joining. So wherever you are from, you can scan the QR code to join us. And that is it for today. Thank you, everyone. I will pass this to Christina to have our group photo.
Super interesting projects. So happy to meet everybody here. Very cool. Thanks.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, Irene, for asking me to do this. All right, guys. I need you guys to turn on your camera, open your camera, turn on your camera so that we can take a quick photo. And I'll be counting down. All right, just give a couple more seconds for people to turn on their camera.
Hi, Kate. Is that you? Hi. Hi, Aquan.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna count down in
Yes.
3, 2, 1. All right. Give me one more second. Okay. One more in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you. Back to you, Irene.
So thank you everyone for joining, and for our beloved speakers today to speak on your journey. And we'll see you in April to talk about sustainable tourism.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
It's a
Thanks,
pleasure to
everyone.
share with
Bye.
you.